Sure. So to back up a little bit, the deal that we made in January, not we, that Congress made, conservatives in Congress made with the Speaker of the House, is essentially a coalition-style government where conservatives have a lot of sway over the rules package and then their rules committee. And there were a lot of agreements that were made, one of them being that spending would be at fiscal year 22 levels. So now you have Patrick McHenry, a lieutenant of Speaker McCarthy, out there making a deal with Democrats. And let me just say that, putting Patrick McHenry in charge of negotiating a deal on behalf of Republicans is like asking a Labrador Retriever puppy to guard steaks. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be a good deal. The mission isn't going to be accomplished. The reason that the coalition-style government was working is because you had conservatives working directly with McCarthy to basically forge paths forward, and that ensured unity within the party. And so what we're seeing now, or at least what is being publicly reported, we'll have to see the fine details, is that they are massively departing from what the House bill that was already passed would accomplish. It's much lower spending reductions that to almost negligible intent in a way that hamstrings the appropriations process. The caps will be a much shorter period of time, not 10 years, but potentially 2 years, and potentially over both the military, the DoD side of things and the non-defense discretionary, which gets us into a dynamic where in previous Congresses, that's led to the dissolution of these deals because neither sides really want those constraints and they always find an off-ramp. And so we're basically putting in poison pills that down the road will just self-destruct these types of deals. A lot of the specific components of the House bill are being jettisoned out or super weakened, like much lower reductions to IRS spending, or that money is not really being reduced. It's just being shuffled around. And at the end of the day, Speaker McCarthy has to make a decision. He has to make a decision as to whether he wants to have a coalition-style government with conservatives to reflect a conservative Republican platform agenda, or if he wants to have a coalition-style government with Hakeem Jeffries and advanced a lukewarm, business-as-usual D.C. swamp level of governing. And at the crux here is you have moderate Republicans, just squealing that Democrats will never accept this type of a deal. If that's your poker face, you've already lost. We have got to be of the mindset that the Democrats will think that there's no way we would ever vote to allow for spending that will fund the Department of Critical Race Theory, which is the Department of Education, and all of these other departments that are fundamentally targeting the rights and the day-to-day lives of American citizens through woke and weaponized bureaucracy. If this deal doesn't fundamentally take a meat cleaver to that problem, then this is just D.C. as usual. And then what you will have is you will have Speaker McCarthy slowly shifting from potentially an historic speaker to a run-of-the-mill swamp leadership that no one will remember in 10 or 15 years. No one will remember in the history books. And I just can't imagine that that's actually the legacy that McCarthy actually wants. And so I would urge those that are in these discussions to quickly pivot back to having a discussion with conservatives. If a deal is to be made, it should be made in conjunction with conservatives, and there could be a deal to be made. But that's up to leadership and the conservative caucus that cut this coalition-style government. And if we don't have warriors like Dan Bishop and Andrew Clyde and Lauren Boebert and Chip Roy and on and on and on, Bob Good, I could go on and on and on. If they're not a part of these conversations, then I think that conservatives and that faction need to take a hard look at the leverage they have. And I think that they could start making life really difficult for McCarthy through the Rules Committee, through other leverage points. And if things really go bad, I think that potentially vacate a motion could be on the table. And look, McCarthy may be able to make a deal with Democrats to save him on that front for a few weeks. But we're going to be getting into primary season, and I just don't think that Democrats are going to toe the line and protect McCarthy. And so if McCarthy wants to protect his speakership here, he needs to make a really good deal. He needs to work with conservatives, and he needs to understand that there's no deal he can make with the left that's going to last the test of time. Conservatives will stay on the hunt here, and they're going to fight for their constituents. They're going to fight for America, and that's exactly what the War Room Posse is going to do as well, thankfully.